Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Damien. Appreciate you guys coming here just to check me out. I thought I'd try something a little bit different today than from my previous videos. I thought I'd just do a little story time with you guys. I have a lot of funny stories throughout my 27 years of living, y'all. And I just thought maybe I start off with something a little bit lighthearted and funny. And if just something that you guys want me to continue sharing, just let me know. I have absolutely a lot of funny stories, and I thought, why not share about how I got my license? you know, you may think it's like, all right, well, you passed your driving test, you got your license, big whoop de doo. But I think I actually want to start back from getting my permit, and then I'll lead on to like how I actually, go through the process of me getting my driver's license. So this is actually take two. I actually recorded a good amount of this video until I realized the sound is off. So, yeah, so I started my license journey when I was 18, right? I got my permit when I was 16. I think as soon as I was eligible, but it took me 3 times to get my permit. Yes, 3 times. And it's not a hard thing to do. So, like, the first time I got my permit, I'm just like, oh, it's not going to be that difficult. I just need to probably, like, read over, glance over the driver's manual, and I'll get it. Failed it. I can't remember the score I got, but I know it was pretty bad. And I went with a couple of my friends, and they all passed, and I was the only one hanging my head down. Second time, I was like, I learned from my first time. I know what I did wrong. Failed it again. So so the first 2 times I did not take it serious. But the third time I was like, all right, let me actually study. Let me actually do some couple of practice quizzes, and I passed it. And my brother, he took me the third time, and he was like, thank God, finally, because it shouldn't have took you this long. So I was very excited. It was a long process. You took your picture and everything, and I got my permit. So now the fun starts when it goes to getting my driver's license. So I remember my first driving test. Not my driving test, my first driving lesson. Now, it also took me 3 times to get my driver's license. I guess the lucky number 3 is just something within me because it took me 3 times to do a lot of things, and I'll share that on another day. So my first driving lesson for my first test, this was when I was 18. I was so nervous, and I was just like, wait, are we not going to like practice in a parking lot or anything? And the guy was like, nope, we're hitting the road. So this driving school was terrible, by the way. They shut down. I didn't know what the gas pedal was, what the brake pedal was. I thought I had to drive with 2 feet. So he basically telling me to just go. And I'm like, how do I go? So he did like a brief overview of the vehicle. And then I sped off. So I'm speeding in the street. And then he said, brake. And I never knew you had to step on the brake gently. And I slammed it. And his face just hit the dashboard like boom, 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 boom. It was like gunshots. He said boom, like this, boom, like this, boom. And I'm like, man, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. He like, it's cool. Then he cracked his neck. He like, you know what? Let me put on a seatbelt and actually pay attention today. I'm like, why aren't you paying attention at all? So we went through the basics during that first lesson. And I think the guy knew like he has his work cut out for him, leading up to the driving test. Because I got a 10 lesson package, including the driving test. So that was lesson 1. Now I have 9 more to go after this. So he said, let's practice parallel parking. He said, do not get too close to the car. You just have to line up next to them and then practice your parallel parking. I crashed the car. Well, not crash it. I slide. Okay, I kind of crashed it. I hit the car. Everybody's looking. Paint scratched off. And, I'm thinking that we're going to do the responsible thing and get out and, maybe, I don't know, leave a note. The man says drive off. So we drove off, and I was just like, was that the correct thing to do? And I'm guessing this driving school didn't have a lot of money. They were cheap, and I can see why they were cheap. I guess they didn't have a lot of money or anything. They didn't want to risk being sued, and nothing then actually ended up happening from that incident. If you're reading this, you don't know who I am. I'm just sorry. Or, watching this. I'm sorry. So the second lesson comes around, right? The first lesson, we just basically after that we just went back to the driving school. So the second lesson comes around. The guy is either sick or he had to do something. So they matched me up with another driver on that day. Uh, and I'm looking at this guy, and he looks like he's on drugs, like crack, weed, whatever it is. He looks like he is just high. So I'm eyeing him up and down. I'm like, this is who about to give me a lesson? So he came in and actually introduced himself. He was pretty cool and respectful. So then I'm like, oh, maybe I judged him wrong, misjudged him. So he was like, look, I'm going to practice you with city driving. I'm like, what's that? He like, I have confidence that you're going to pass the test. And I only took one lesson at this time. And you just need to learn how to drive in New York, which I will say driving in New York is different from driving in any other state or city. New York City is his own beast. It's his own animal. People drive crazy around here. So I definitely agree. If you're driving in New York City, you need to learn just how to drive on the road in general. Just a lot of unspoken rules. So I agree that you should have just a driving lesson in New York. So he said, hey, make this turn here. Make a turn there. Make a turn here. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. This is going pretty good because I'm feeling, getting confident. So we end up in the projects. And I'm like, why are we in the projects? He's like, yo, wait right here. I see him go across the street and make a drug deal. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And then he was like, he come back, he sold some weed, and then I guess the guy, he brought too much or he gypped the guy, whatever it was. He was like, yeah, I got some leftover weed from the deal. You want some? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm like, I'm not about to just take any random drugs from you. I don't know you, and I don't smoke. So I'm like, no, I'm fine. And I'm just like, man, what in the world did I have did I get myself involved in? What kind of school is this? So now he go on telling me, while we're just driving, he said the owner of the school, it's like a womanizer. I'm like, oh, what you mean? He said there's, a couple of girls in there that could afford to pay for the school. And I'm like, oh, okay, so what do y'all do? Like, call the cops? And like, no. He just shut the door and told him to go in the back room and, you guys just picture your imagination what he's did. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, this is so ghetto. So now the guy actually starts to smoke while I'm driving. And I'm like, man, can you roll down the window? I don't smoke. Stuff like that. He's like, yeah, no problem, young blood. No problem, young blood. I got you. He like, yo, pull up over there too. So we stop at a grocery store. So now he's going grocery shopping. I'm just in this car and like, I don't know what the hell is going on today. So he made a drug deal. Now he's going to the grocery store. Then after that, he had to go pick up some cleaners. So I'm like, he's just using me as his errand boy today. So then eventually, sorry about that. Eventually, we get back. And, I'm just like, I'm going to fail this test like no other. So that's the first two lessons, y'all. That's just how it goes. So now lessons 3 to 10 or whatever, it's really nothing much happens after that. They're just telling me turn here, turn there. We're doing parallel parking. And actually, by the end of lesson 10, I actually feel fine. So now here comes the driving test day. We're supposed to, in the state of New York, and I believe this is anywhere, we're supposed to bring your permit and your 5-hour driving certificate. I forgot my 5-hour driving certificate at home. So I had to run home, literally run home and get it. And they said, we will wait for you when you come, because I only live around the corner. Look, well, down the block and around the corner. I didn't live far. So I ran home. I come back and they left. I'm like, y'all just said y'all would wait for me. And the reason why I'm kind of mad, like, it is my fault for me forgetting it. Yeah, my bad, y'all. It is my fault for me forgetting it. But they were like, yeah, we have a lot of time. Just go home and get it and come back. Then I come back and y'all gone. So I'm like, what the hell just happened in like 15 minutes? So now they're calling to see if anybody could drop me. At the time I lived in Brooklyn and the driving site was in Queens. So they're calling everybody to see who can drop me to Queens. Everybody's saying they're booked up. So I called my friend. He dropped me to Queens, and I met them at the driving site. And they looked at me like, oh, you found your way over? I'm like, yes, I want to pass this test. Now I'm nervous as hell because the day is already not going so well. Everything's not going good. Apologize if you hear the TV in the background. The football game is on. Everything's just not going well at this point. So I get in the car, and this is a mean looking mofo, man. Like, he's just mean as hell. So I remember I prepared the car by putting it in drive without turning the car on. I don't even know like how I even did that. So like the car was in drive before I even turned it on. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be prepared. Just going to pull off right when he said, let's go. So he gets in the car and he basically like, he don't even say anything. He just looking to see if I check my mirrors, put on my seatbelt, yada, 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 all the safety precautions. So now he said, turn the car on and let's go. I'm trying to turn the key and the car is not turning on. I'm like, man, this can't be. I'm like, why is the car not turning on? I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, is the car broken? Is the car old? And he like, young man, is there anything wrong? I'm like, the car is not turning on. He said, I know why it's not turning on. If you don't figure it out, you're going to lose points. So I'm just looking around the car. I'm like, I don't know why it's not turning on. He said, it's in drive. The car will not turn on if it's in drive. So he puts it in park, and I turn it on. He basically failed me from there. Like, because all he did was, hey, pull out, drive, turn right, make another right, pull over. And I'm like, wait, that's the test? He said, yep, that's the test. You failed. You need a lot more practice. I'm like, man, like, I could have shown you. I could have done the U-turn, and I could have done everything else. He said, nope, that was probably the shortest driving test in history. Just went around the block. I come back, and the guy was like, what happened? Like, man, I forgot how to turn on the car. He like, man, you forgot how to turn on the car? Oh, yeah, man, I don't know what just happened. So, I don't know how much of the driving school I could blame for that, but I just forgot. So now, that was when I was 18. I go back when I was 20 now. I don't know. I guess I took a year off from not getting my license. Whatever. Come back home from college break, summer break, 20 years old. Go back to that same driving school because they're just... Man, I couldn't beat the price, man. It was probably like... For the test and the 10 packages, under $100 or something like that. I can't remember how much it was, but it was cheaper than when I was comparing it to everybody else. Same nonsense. They're still doing the same things. Nothing new. Not teaching me properly how to, turn the wheel. But I'm thinking it's fine. Not teaching me how to properly park. All of that. Y'all wouldn't believe on the day of the second test, I forgot that damn certificate home again. It's funny when I think about it now. I was like, God damn it, man. How I forgot it at home again. Thankfully, this time, the guy actually dropped me to my house. He's like, look, you live down there? So we drove to my house, got it, came back. So there was like, at this driving site, it was strange. It was like you were placed in groups. So this driving instructor had this group of people and another driving instructor had a separate group of people. So so the guy that brought us, once he saw the driving instructor that had us, he was like, oh no. I'm like, oh no. What you mean, oh no? He said, this guy is a pain in the butt. I'm like, how so? He said, he failed all of my students. I'm like, really? He said, he's a hard behind. He's a tough guy. Just try to do everything I taught you and try to be right. But I'm not going to lie to you. He failed everybody I ever had. So that doesn't even soar my confidence at all. So I get in the car. I'm like, all right. I was still nervous. And I remember they kept saying, look at your mirrors. Don't forget to look at your mirrors. So I'm just looking at my mirrors like sporadically. I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm just looking at it all the time. Checking it out. Mirror right. Mirror left. I'm just checking out my mirrors all the time. So anyway, let me just start off by this. He gets in the car. I turn the car. And I sped off like, phew. And my driving instructor, he was like, my goodness. I sped off so fast. It was a car in front of us. I almost hit it, and he had to hit his brake and take control of the wheel. I already knew I failed the test right there. And I lost all my confidence. I just gave up hope. So he was like, you didn't see that car? I'm like, I did. I was about to hit the brake, but you hit it. He's like, you were not about to hit the brake. And I don't know what the heck I was doing, but I almost hit that car. So now he said, make a left. I turned. Now you're supposed to turn into the closest lane. I turned into the right lane, to the furthest lane. And basically, he just took me around the corner again. He like, you're not ready. So I was pissed off. I was like, man, I almost hit a car. He like, man, like I don't understand what's wrong with you. So something, I was like, I was determined to get my license that summer. I'm like, I'm going to a different school. So now I'll go to a different school, a different driving school. And man, I believe her name was Crystal, if I'm not mistaken. She was the best driving instructor, like, of all time that I ever had. She took her time and very patient with me. I purchased a 5-lesson package at this school called Blue Steel and the driving test. So once she saw me driving, she's like, all right, I see you got the experience, but you're like very, you need a lot of cleaning up. So she takes her time and teaches me how to properly parallel park, how to turn, how to do it, a lot of things that she was basically just unteaching a lot of things that I learned in the last school. And once I told her the last school, she's like, oh my goodness. She's like, yeah, we had a lot of people that transferred from that school to this school, and, I helped them get their license. So now we're leading up to the test, and I'm getting nervous. I'm like, here we go again. And I switched locations too. I was like, forget Queens. If you're from New York, Queens. Queens has very narrow roads, so a lot of one-way roads or two ways in Queens, and it doesn't have a lot of space. So if you're learning how to drive, it is tough to learn how to drive in Queens just because of how the roads are constructed. I don't know why it's like that. So now, my third test is approaching. I'm in the line. I didn't even tell anybody I was taking this test because I was afraid to, let them know that if I failed. I was just afraid to tell people that I failed, if I didn't pass this test. I didn't tell my girlfriend at the time, who was my fiance now. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anybody. I was like, I'm just going to take this. And if I fail, I keep it to myself. If I pass, I'm going to holler. I'm going to let everybody know. Now, it was like something changed. It was a switch that flipped when it was my turn to go. He said, go, and I went. I just had all the confidence in the world, and I was just quiet. I made all the correct turns. I didn't mess up on parallel parking the first time, but he allowed me to redo it, which I'm thankful for. I did the 3-point turn correctly. I just did everything right. And then I knew I passed the test. I'm like, that was a good job, huh? And he looked at me and laughed. He's like, yeah, you're not doing too bad here today. So we finished it, and then he's talking. And I knew I passed the test because now he's printing out my license. And he just like, hey, you just need to work on this, that. And I'm like, yes, let's go. So then he said, you passed. And I get out the car dancing. I'm like, I got my license. So much trials and tribulations from somebody having me do drug deals and picking up his laundry, forgetting how to turn on the car, to finally being a licensed driver. My instructor was happy. Crystal, if you're watching this, by any chance, I thank you. I really thank you. And then I had my friend pick me up from there. He was like, man, if you didn't pass this time, you wasn't allowed to be in the car. So I just remember telling everybody how much I passed my tests, and, that was a wild ride. And it seems like every part of my life, everything that I ever gotten and, achieved, it was just so hard, which is great. It makes you appreciate things so much more. And, yeah. So that's how I got my license, y'all. It was a long story, wacky story. Let me know how y'all like it. Let me know if you want me to do more story times and, whatever else. So, yeah. And I think after I got my license, I didn't drive for a while until I got my car. So it probably was close to a year until I started driving again until I got my car. But yeah, nothing funny about that. I actually do have a story about when I got my car. I'll save that for another video. So yeah, let me know how y'all like it. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, give me some honest feedback. Later, y'all.